Good afternoon on what is a bright, cool and changeable day. It is Sunday the 16th of January. I am back in the reading nook with some parcels, a cat who is not ours, and of course a nice hot cup of tea. And the next thing I am going to unbox is this. This monster, this is all one thing and it's quite heavy. So let's have a look. Let's get the knife. Being very careful around your cat who is not ours, because I know what he's like. So almost there, just getting the knife into the well sealed parcel, and then let's put it up there. There. Yeah, it's just taking a bit of time to unbox. So two good reasons for that. One, I want to get that out, this out, okay, and then now I can get to the shelf, and then I can show you that past its head. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. He's not very interested, of course. But what we've got, so is, ow, oh, is that everything? Not quite, because packed into here is quite cleverly. Actually, what they've done is you can see there. No, you can't. I'm going to show you. Is you've got the medallion or with the coin and the dice there. So I'm not going to detach those, but they have been quite firmly attached to the box. And then there's this monster. So wrap that. Basically, so far in, I've barely got to the book, and you can see how well this has been wrapped. A lot of shrink wrap on this. I've got to try and find the beginning of it to open it. See if I get there to move. Hopefully, in the end, it's so well wrapped that I am having to tear my way through the plastic. So here we go. Okay, that's one layer of plastic. Before we actually, this will be easier to get into now, because it's just okay. Yeah, I know, not very exciting for you. But almost there, 4 minutes in, we still haven't looked at the book yet. Literally fought my way into this package. And this monster. And this is Haunted West, a tabletop role-playing game showing the light of truth on the Old West. It's published by Darker Hue Studios, core book by Chris Spivey and crew. This is a monster of a book. Chris Spivey, you may know as the author of arguably one of the best supplements we've had out in the last few years. I think in 2017 or 2018, it was he published Harlem Unbound, kickstarted that successfully, and then Chaosium have done a second edition. And that's focused on the Harlem in New York of the late 20s and early and the 20s of the 20th century. So it's essentially post the Great War, and is a really good Call of Cthulhu supplement focused upon one neighborhood in New York and bring it to life. Great adventures, great source material. If you haven't got a copy, thoroughly recommend it. Anyway, so there is this Haunted West. So we have, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favour freedom and yet depreciated agitation are men who want crops without ploughing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, or it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. That's Frederick Douglass, talking 1857. And then it continues, mount up and ride into history. Not the history you may have learned in school, but a fuller, more truthful one, with a weird West spin. Haunted West is about hope through struggle. It's a game that amplifies the voices of the often overlooked people of the Old West, the people who have been whitewashed by history. Venture into an alternate history that imagines a post-American Civil War, where the Reconstruction flourishes for many years instead of meeting its abrupt end, and imagine a new reality with greater opportunities for all those who inhabit the United States. Batter traitorous rebels as a black gadgeteer with your rifle and jetpack. Rustle cattle as a Chinese drover while keeping the dinosaurs at bay. Combat a legion of undead monsters as an indigenous gunslinger, or traverse the Oregon Trail as a Jewish homesteader whilst being haunted by the spectres of those who perished along the way. You have the power to tell your story. You have the power to tell the American story. Step out of your door into the Haunted West, but beware, it isn't for the faint of heart. Let's ride. From the creators of Harlem Bound, Haunted West is a Weird West tabletop role-playing game set after the American Civil War. This core book gives you everything you need to explore the Old West, including an extensive historical account from prehistoric times through the last stagecoach robbery, the Oribus system, a modular 3-tiered system powering your adventures using a D100 degrees of success, and a unique Jax mechanic, Haunted West reconstruction, an imaginative haunted history, robust Weird West content including magics, creatures, mechanics, and more. The Knights of the Aristat, a thrilling adventure set in the Weird West. An in-depth city building process for creating the setting you want. Life path character creation to build characters firmly entrenched in the world. 12 Paragon categories enabling you to create any type of player character you choose. Haunted West world, powered by the Apocalypse hack. So there's an incredible lot of content in this book, and I haven't even cracked open. As I say, it's an incredibly thick book. And my fear is that, it's so thick I'm going to drop it on the cat who's not ours head. I will try and avoid that, because he won't forgive me. So, open up. And we have a range of different cast here, taken from original photographs of different titles you would normally see in the Wild West. So you've got a far more diverse range of characters. And I'm all for that, basically, because it increases the range of stories you can tell, and the range of characters you can play, and it deepens the story. It deepens the setting itself. It literally brings colour. It brings colour to the background instead of sort of like these sort of kind of traditional black hat, white hat versus black hat tales that you would get in Hollywood. Now, as entertaining as they are, there's obviously other interesting tales to be told of the Old West, and of course, obviously with this, the Weird West. And this is quite a heavy book. So let me open up. So we start talking about truth, and you know, and it's talking here about playing the type of character you can play and playing them with respect, and so on. We've got quite a lengthy piece of fiction here. Oh gosh. Let's just move that. So I'm just going to use this as a rest a bit, basically, so I'm not constantly flipping pages. So I will show you stuff, but it's a case of you're not seeing me struggle to manipulate this book, as it does weigh several pounds. So we've got a lengthy piece of fiction, and then we get on to the forward, and here is where it kind of starts proper. Covering things like, in fact, the fiction and beyond, and it's got sections, you know, covers things like Haunted West reconstruction, the actuals, Go West Young Man, explains what an RPG is and what the Haunted West represents, and then explains its sidebars, and said sidebars are plenty. So we have voices, history, weird, mechanics, balladeer, and reconstruction. It's basically giving the main content some context and developing it further there with options like that. So we have a bag of nails example. That's an example of play. And including inspiration here, comic title I've never come across, and I mean it's not entirely surprising. And here we go into explaining the system, Oribus system, which kind of suggests that, you know, it's percentile, but what you're rolling. The idea that presumably if you get your skills over 100, it can go back the other way around somehow. I'm not sure how, but that's the suggestion just from the name. And then we get on to Dead Man's Hand, and essentially here's the options for expanding it, and this takes it even to, you know, the even weirder West. If I can just get hold of that page, say the book's a bit of a handful, and you've got space aliens there. I also really like the illustrations in here as well. I do. I mean, you know, lots of period art and period artwork and photographs. And just one element of the horror of the setting. Gunfighters essentially assailed by zombies. So lengthy Oribus system, and then we get on to chapter 3, which is beginning to build the setting by looking at the people who were there. It's called The People, and we're talking about the indigenous, so the Plains nations, and so on, nations of the southwest. You see, I'm really kind of struggling with this. It's such a heavy book. And then immigrants and settlers. And again, this is showing a wide range, a diverse range of the types of people who came across. Because they, you know, they did come across from all countries. Wasn't so, you know, obviously millions from all over Europe, obviously Ireland following the Great Potato Famine, and then Europe, especially Russia, and a huge, wide, diverse population, often driven out by events in Europe, whether that was famine or illness, or worse, the pogroms against the Jews in Eastern Europe, which were an unfortunate thing. We've got a discussion here of Mexican Americans. All in here. It just, you know, in some ways, this is really acting. If you're not, how can I put it? you know, if you don't necessarily, you're not necessarily going to go out and buy source books on these particular books on these subjects themselves, but here's a good starter. We've got the military and the period as well. And the government, the Secret Service, Indian agents, and so on. And then notable gangs. You could write a whole chapters on these gangs, and these are just some of them. So I'm just flipping through, and then crafting paragons and making your own myths, and that's just some of the ideas there. You know, almost instead of sort of like twirling the guns, he's actually resting that on his finger there. And here are the tables you've got. Presumably this is basically the backgrounds here and the life path sections for creating your paragons. Sorry, and of course your copy will come without a cat's tail. Unless there's something that Chris Spivey forgot to put in my box, which seems unlikely. I'm not suggesting he goes around collecting cat's tails. So yes, you've got a lengthy life path section in here. We've also got a nice bit of cup of tea here. Again, discussion elements which you don't normally really think about when you think of the Old West, but it would have been there. So a discussion here of disability in the Old West, and honestly, it was something that would have been there, if not necessarily because for any number of reasons. Because life was tough, accidents did happen. You had people who would have been born with disabilities, unfortunately, but also you would have people who would have been suffered injuries during the Civil War. So that, again, they would have been disabled as well. I've got a discussion of paragon archetypes here. I'm really giving myself a workout with this book. It's because the thing is, I've got books this sort of size already. I mean, obviously, Zweihander is an obvious choice there, but this got quite a solid feel to it, and the paper stock is high, and that's a lot of pages. So we have starting points for the paragons. So you've got the academic, and with life paths as well. So this is not a book. Yeah, this is not. I wouldn't say this is a role-playing game. You could create characters at the table. You've got the gadgeteer. I mean, complete with background. So what we've got is so for the gadgeteer, example occupations: inventor, engineer, mechanic, tinkerer, photographer. Historical examples. A trait bonus, i.e. reflex or technology +2. Given skills, areas of expertise. Core propensities like Eureka, you have flashes of inspiration and genius, or John Henry. You're destined to be a folk story or weird science. You comprehend weird technology, and then sundries, which is your equipment, like your dollars and how much ammunition and clothing and so on. And it's doing all of these, and then for each one you have these life path tables. So presumably you can create a character from scratch using the earlier tables, or you can, or that's part of it, and then you choose an archetypal paragon here and use the tables to add variety. So we've also got the gunfighter. I'm not going to show you all of these, otherwise it would be quite a long video. And in comparison, so gunfighter and the holy, the hunter, the lore, and more. So many of those. I'm going to flip through them. Full list of skills, as well, just some of them. So I'm already just that way through the book. I've got this to flip through. I said it's a big, big book. Next. So that's quite a long section of Print the Legend, which is character creation. Before we get onto elements like myth making and gaining experiences and magic, psychics, and the science of the weird. And I haven't seen any bookmarks. This is a one thing is, this is the size of book you really kind of use, but you could have done with some bookmarks sewn in. As it is, this is a book that you're going to need a few bookmarks for, I think. So just check. I mean, I'm still going through the fourth chapter. Okay, so that's the fourth chapter. That's one chapter devoted to character creation out of all that book. That's that's quite amazing. And I've still got this to go. We're getting to the Balladeer. I don't know what the Balladeer is. So essentially, the Balladeer is the name for the referee. So as it says here, is countless things all at once: project manager, narrator, referee, player, and possibly the most essential person at the game table. So here we're talking about the social contract, safety tools, character creation, and so on, and the types and styles of play, whether dealing with the weird or the mundane. And the cat is not ours. He's got so disinterested that he's wandered off. As I say, it is a long video, and we've got tables in here for things like downtime on the trail. And then sample locations. Not a lot of those. So here we go. And then the haunted gun. And basically these are I think these are sample encounters. Basically, the haunted gun is a back burner skeleton, a campaign skeleton. And then we get into the sample weird gallery. So we've got an adst, a shootist, or an Anansi from the Beyond. So there we go. There's two. And it comes. You've got complete stats in there, maybe an illustration, not always, and then there's a plot hook as well. So pages and pages of those, like weird and the unknown, including the Greys, Wrangler. As I said earlier, mentioned earlier, so you really can. There's quite a wide range of the weird you can employ in here. We've gone to the sample bestiary, and that's actually quite a short section. I'm surprised how short that actually is. So sample weird gallery, just to show you the book, and that's you would imagine there's more, but no. Haunted West reconstruction. And here we get on to the history, and essentially the alternate history of Haunted West. Basically covering the Haunted West reconstruction, 1865 to 1870, and obviously beyond. And he's got interested again. I think the cat is not ours. He's come back. I'm going to move the book over here to stop clonking him on the head. Yeah, lots of stuff in here. Then the American myth and the history of the land. Again, there's obviously going to be some kind of framework which he would say, you know, here's what you know, here's what's actually going on, that sort of thing. And both are interesting because, you know, here's what you've learned as a history of the land, and here's what was going on. You know, because obviously the one thing is that our knowledge of the myth, or knowledge of that period, is a lot of it is drawn necessarily from Hollywood's reconstruction of it. Because after all, we are talking 150 odd years ago. And then things like dealing with difficult subjects like treason and the Civil War. And yes, for some people this is going to be a difficult game, I admit that, but I look upon this as an interesting exploration of the history, what happened, what didn't happen, and really to see that history from someone else, from different points of view. You know, obviously Chris Spivey and his writing team's point of view, and to bring, as far as, you know, a more historical, as I say, less black and white, or black hat and a white hat point of view to the setting, and I think that's really interesting. And whether that's interesting, you know, as purely historical or something to role play. So we've got a complete history. We go out into, you know, Reconstruction, out into the blood-soaked West. And beyond. Dealing with things like the Black Hills Gold Rush, and the San Elizero Salt War. Heard of one, not heard of the other. And he's gone off again, so I can put this down on my lap. And then exploring things like the Transcontinental Railroad Lifeline Death Knell, its effects upon the West as well. And then we get into the historical fix. So we've got stats and write-ups for characters such as Andrew Jackson Beard, whom I don't know, but obviously Araminta Ross, Harriet Trubman, I have heard of. And then Bat Marston, of course, Bass Reeves, and so on, the characters I have heard of. So you've got the full range. So you've got scope there to bring in historical figures, like Bat Marston, you know, and then Bass Reeves, who's a fascinating character in himself. You know, the inspiration for the Lone Ranger, and honestly, someone whom I've sort of like vaguely heard of, and then really sort of saw him. Sort of come to the fore when he was depicted in the television series of Timeless. So yeah, lots and lots of historical figures. So yeah, there we go. Just more and more, all well researched, all well written up. You know, the complete with plot hooks that the referee or the balladeer can bring into his or her game. And then stops along the trail. So this is the location guide, I'm presuming. See if that is it. From New York. And New York, I mean, obviously the New York. These are just quick overviews because a city like New York could have a book of its own for the period. New Orleans. And presumably we'll go to places like Chicago and so on. And then going Kansas City and out further west. And this is, I'm already thinking it'd be interesting, and I would probably supplement it with some things like the Cowtown Creator, the Knuckle Duster Cowtown Creator, which is really good Wild West supplement for adding details. When we go out to Colorado and New Mexico and Arizona, steps and stops all along the way. Then a bag of nails, and we've got a full scenario there. Night of the Aerostat. So that's quite lengthy, and then handouts for it and appendices, and we've got Ivy's Almanac of Ailments and Antidotes, so sickness, and their medicines, and then the Mythos in the Haunted West, if you wanted to include the Cthulhu Mythos, if you don't have Down Darker Trails, and that'll be a good source book for this as well. It's there as an option. So we have stats for creatures that like the ghoul. I would say, that's a little bit difficult to read the actual title of the creature. I recognised it as a ghoul, but I was joking. Is that definitely a ghoul? I couldn't see the title there. And then Haunted West World, and here we've got a Haunted West World hack. Powered by the Apocalypse, which is a popular game system. So we've got the different paragons with their playbooks listed at the end. So this almost finished going through all this and extensive bibliography. So it's definitely not under research. You can't say that about it. And character sheets and index at the end. So yeah, this is Haunted West, a tabletop role-playing game shining a light on the truth of the Old West from Darker Hue Studios. Do check this out if you're looking for an interesting take upon the basically the Wild West, the Old West, and the Weird West. Great toolkit, great source material for playing interesting characters whom you might not necessarily have thought of playing. So yeah, okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing look. It's been a bit longer than anticipated. If you have, please do click that like button down below. And lastly, and basically, if you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you posting those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, then where you will see me out here with a parcel and a book or a game, which I will unbox to the best extent in 10 minutes or so, and definitely also in this case, all accompanied by occasionally a cat who's not ours. He's gone back inside to his bed, and a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, thanks for making all the way through this unboxing of Haunted West. And I will be back in the meantime with another unboxing very soon. Bye for now. Thanks for watching.